Yeah, Trudeau, your week's not getting any better. Matter of fact, I expect how this all unfolds and this new precedent, this new revelation that's now starting to unfold in regards to this SNC Lavalin scandal, yeah, it's going to double down on the very real fact that, yeah, you're not going to be able to just use political language or your media mouthpieces to lay cover for how this story is unfolding. And this new federal court decision is just further proof of that. Headline out of the National Post: Federal court strikes down SNC Lavalin's bid for remediation agreement. On Friday, the court ruled that SNC Lavalin's bid to have it overturned had no reasonable prospect of success. In other words, folks, SNC Lavalin, well, we already understand this, or at least those of us who pay attention. I can understand a whole lot of people out there that maybe are confused or confounded because the media hasn't actually made this quite as clear as people like myself have. But yes, not only was it the decision of the Justice Department or Jody Wilson-Raybould to deny SNC Lavalin this get-out-of-jail-free card, this DPA agreement, based on the fact that they had so much rampant corruption and a history of corruption, and even now, cases and examples are just coming light of the amount of corruption that is part and parcel, that is the culture of that company, of that organization, of that corporation. And these DPAs are only meant for those people that, you did something bad, just like you as a regular person. If it was your first offense, you haven't done anything wrong, hey, or it was just a one-off thing, and you repent and you promise you're never going to do it again, we'll give you a get-out-of-jail-free card. Well, like I say, the courts, the justice system, they all decided, nope, they don't meet that requirement. They don't meet that standard, which is why it was rejected in the first place. And this is just another federal court that agrees with that fact, with that reality. This is being reported by Maura Forrest, March 8, 2019. Ottawa. The federal court has decided not to overturn the Director of Public Prosecution's refusal to offer SNC Lavalin a remediation agreement that would have allowed the Quebec engineering firm to avoid a criminal trial. That's the thing, folks. I know many of those in the established media are trying to prevent or deny the fact that this is a criminal case, and it's supposed to proceed as a criminal case. Criminal, criminal, criminal. Keep that in mind as this whole thing is unfolding, that this is all about a criminal case that's supposed to happen and supposed to proceed. And if anything changes that, then there's definitely something not just illegal, but very nefarious and very corrupt that's happening. On Friday, the court ruled that the prosecutor's decision clearly falls within the ambit of prosecutorial discretion, and that SNC Lavalin's bid to have it overturned had no reasonable prospect of success. The decision comes as the government reels from a controversy sparked by allegations that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and officials in his office inappropriately pressured former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould to order the Director of Public Prosecutions to negotiate a deferred prosecution agreement, DPA, with SNC Lavalin. Out of concern for the company's 9,000 Canadian jobs and for the Liberals' re-election prospects, Wilson-Raybould refused, and she was shuffled out of the Justice portfolio and into Veteran Affairs in January. She resigned from Cabinet last month after the allegations were made public in the Globe and Mail, and has since detailed to a Parliamentary Justice Committee what she called a consistent and sustained effort by many people within the government to make her change her mind. And yeah, that's another thing too. She still hasn't been allowed by Trudeau to come forth once again in this new testimony and push back against some of the premises or positions that his lackeys have put forth under their testimony. Because we got to always keep in mind, that's another very key factor and point that you always have to keep in mind, is Jody Wilson-Raybould isn't even totally allowed to speak freely on the entirety of how this all unfolded. She's only allowed to speak with a very narrow scope of a particular time frame. For us to hear the full and entirety of how that unfolded and the full story, we need to hear from her in regards to testimony from the beginning to the end. From then until now. How did it start? How did it play out? And how did it finally come to be where this now is a huge and gigantic scandal within the Liberal Party? We need to hear all the details, all the facts. And the only way that's going to happen is if Justin Trudeau finally takes the gag off of Mrs. Raybould and allows her to speak fully and freely about the entire situation and how that all unfolded. I'll post a link to this article in the description of the video below, but I definitely want to see some truth come to light out of this. And I definitely want to see SNC Lavalin, in addition to the federal liberals, have to suffer some kind of consequences for this kind of corruption, for this kind of bribery, and for this kind of blatant disregard for the rule of law. We're all held to a ridiculously high standard and have to meet a high bar when we're dealing with each other in an economic sphere. I want corporations such as SNC Lavalin and those political hacks that seek to rule over us to be at least held to that same kind of standard, or to that same high bar. I don't want to live in a country where there's two sets of rules. One for the connected and ruling class, and one for the lowly serfs and peons. And I'm pretty sure you don't want it either. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.